Now let's get some ghost stories from the Great Lakes Horror Writers. You mean they're gonna tell us ghost stories right now? Yeah, Bigfoot, you sit your ass right there, park your arse, and you're going to hear a ghost story. Ooh, spooky!
As you said, I'm Michael Cieslak. I'm a member of the Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers. In a moment, you're going to hear some short fiction written by the very talented authors who wrote it. Before we get there, I need to provide you with a little bit of explanation. To begin with, the program states this is going to be flash fiction. I'm sorry, that doesn't mean what you think it means. It means fiction that's very short, generally under 1,000 words, some of it under 300. It takes a very special talent to be able to deliver an entire plot and the emotional impact of a story in a short number of words. We're very lucky to have some of the people I consider masters of that craft here. The Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers. Don't be afraid. Be terrified. Since this is about being brief, I'm going to stop right here and turn this over to one of those brilliant authors I mentioned, Peggy Christie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? This is my first reading, so if I throw up, don't be alarmed. All right, I'm going to be reading a short story flash called Earl. How are you today, Earl? The older man looked up at the slim, pretty blonde woman as she scanned her ticket into the computer. Just fine, Emily. How are you? Well, the sun is shining, there's a nice breeze, and I'm playing hooky to watch a baseball game. Could be worse. Earl smiled and nodded. Yes, it could. Enjoy the game. Thanks, Earl. Take care. Emily headed toward her seat section with her friend, chatting away about shoes or some such nonsense. Earl studied her behind as it swayed with each step she took. He licked his lips, imagining the delicious things he could do with it. Once the game was over and all the park employees had cleaned up their workstations and punched out, Earl ambled out to the parking lot. He may have been 70 years old, but he was still a good driver. He'd restored a red and white 1959 Cadillac Eldorado Baritz to cherry condition. Not only was it a classic car, but it had the most trunk space of any vehicle available at the time. He pulled the car into his garage and entered the kitchen, shrugging off his park jacket and hanging it on a hook by the side door. He eased off his orthopedic support shoes, pushed his feet into a pair of Ugg slippers. Yes, he was too old for such trendy fashions, but they sure were warm and soft for his sore feet. He filled the tea kettle with water and put it on the stove. He picked up his worn woolen sweater, slipping his arms into its familiar comfort. While he waited for the water to heat up, he made his way to the living room and sat in his easy chair. Earl looked around at the decor. After his beloved wife died 10 years ago, he finally got the chance to decorate the house as he wanted. The bookshelf on his right, holding 8 jars with severed heads floating in formaldehyde, was dark cherry wood, his favorite. The matching coffee table, covered with the tanned and stretched skins of 4 different young women, showed a few nicks and scratches, but was in otherwise pristine condition. He reached for the remote, which sat in a skeletal hand cut from his last victim, a young brunette he'd met at the grocery store. It amazed him how easy it was to fool these trusting, naive young women into thinking he was a harmless old man. The kettle whistled from the kitchen just as Jeopardy went to a commercial. Time for tea, Earl muttered. He shuffled back to the kitchen and grabbed a clean mug from the dish rack next to the sink. A box of his favorite cinnamon tea sat open on the counter, and he plucked a bag free. He dropped it into the mug and covered it with hot water. As it left to steep, Earl studied the pictures of Emily he'd hung on the refrigerator, at the ballpark, her work, the mall, and her home. There'll be time enough for you too, my dear, he whispered. Thank you.